All right, so this was for our investigation in our textbook on page 41, the investigation 1-E, which was called What Goes Up Must Come Down. So we're just analyzing this graph, the predator-prey curve of the snowshoe hare and the Canada lynx. So we're looking at the first question here, which was in 1845, approximately how many lynxes were harvested by trappers? So we just went from 1845 up to the graph and across to the y-axis. And keep in mind that on the y-axis it is in thousands, so that would be 20,000. All right, so I'm just gonna make a note of that here. All right, it's about 20,000. So we'll just write 20,000. There we go. Next question is, in 1845, how many hares were harvested by trappers? All right, so from 1845, this time we're looking at the hares. What would be your estimate? All right, so an appropriate estimate here for how many hares were harvested by trappers in 1845. So just at 1845, going up to the orange graph, which represents the snowshoe hare, we'd say about 80,000. So I'll just fill that in here. So 80,000 for the hare in 1845. Okay, in C, how many of each were harvested in 1855? All right, so at 1855, we're just going to estimate how many lynx. So just go straight up and across, and we could say about 25,000 lynx. And then for the hares, it's just a little bit below there, so we could say about 20,000 for hares. For part C, I'll just write down here then. There's not enough room. So for question C, I'll say 25,000 lynx. And I'll say about 20,000 hares. Good. Question D, in 1865, which is here, 2 years before Canada's Confederation, how did the two populations compare? What led to this change in the relative numbers of the two populations? And what food that affects both hares and lynxes does not appear on this graph? All right, so for part D then, we're gonna say it's about 75,000 for the lynx population. And looking at the hare populations, it is quite high up here. We can just estimate about 160,000 for the hares. All right, and then what led to this change in the relative numbers of the two populations? So what we need to see here is that the population is increased in size because the low numbers of hares allowed the plants to grow. So as plants are able to grow, there is now more food available for the hares. Now there's a large number of hares that survive because they have a lot of food from the plants. So now if there's a lot of hares that are surviving, they're going to provide enough food for lynxes, so therefore more lynxes are able to survive because there's a larger prey population. And the last part of the question was what food that affects both hares and lynxes does not appear in this graph? That would be the plants. The plant population is not shown. All right, so under Analyze, question 1, use the graph to explain how changes in the lynx population appear to follow changes in the hare population. So the lynxes, they appear to follow the hares because there are always fewer lynxes than hares. But as the number of hares increases, so does the number of lynxes, and vice versa. Okay, question number 2. How can prey be said to control a predator's population, and how can predators be said to control a prey's population? All right, so question 2. So when there is a lot of prey, the predators are going to have large amounts of food to eat. Therefore, the predator population will be able to grow in size. When the number of prey decreases, the predator population will also decrease because now there's not enough food. So therefore, predators control the prey population because when there's a lot of predators, the prey get eaten, and therefore the population cannot grow out of control. Question number 3, the data in the graph are incomplete after the year of 1935. Based on the data, estimate the populations of the lynxes and hares in 1940. So notice our graph ends here at 1935. So we have to pretty much guess what's happening at 1940 and 1945. All right, so for question 3, we'll probably see the hare population will start decreasing after 1935. So in about 1940, both hare and lynx populations would be smaller than in 1935. And then in about 1945, that 10-year population cycle should be ending, and they'll have their lowest number, and then they will start to increase again, and the cycle will repeat. Question 4, the last few years shown in the graph are the years of the Great Depression. So 1929, so somewhere in here, to 1939, it's a time of mass unemployment. How might this unemployment have affected populations such as these? All right, so for question 4, if there was mass unemployment, it would probably cause more people than usual to start trapping and hunting. So this would reduce the population of lynxes. If they were only trapping the lynxes, then therefore the population of hares would grow. So therefore the balance of the cycle will change.